showtime! The Capital G Show starts right now.
What's up YouTube? Capital G here. So guys, talking Dragon Rulers in this video, and I think that there is actually a pretty large misconception about this deck, and I'll be the first to admit I fell victim to this misconception. I think that a lot of people see, you know, tons of people playing the deck. They see it dominating everywhere. They see bad and good players alike making a lot of the same plays, and it really leads you to think that the deck doesn't take any skill, because when you see a bad player winning with these plays and then you see a good player winning with the same plays, it's like, well, you know, obviously it's autopilot. You guys are doing the same thing, so where's the skill involved? And I was watching a video posted by my Uncle Dp-Ygo dad earlier today, and it was one of the most eye-opening videos I've seen in a very long time. Now, Dp-Ygo dad is one of the smartest duelists on YouTube right now, and every time I watch one of his like real in-depth videos, it gets me kind of thinking, like, why hasn't this guy topped like a dozen regionals by now? And the video kind of started, you know, it was supposed to be a discussion highlighting how powerful Super Rejuvenation is, but it kind of ended up more or less showcasing the amount of skill that the Dragon Ruler deck actually takes to maximize the power and potential that the deck has to offer. Now, let me just say and preface this video by saying I am by no means a Dragon Ruler expert. In fact, I would definitely have to classify myself as a novice, you know, as far as playing the deck. Like, when it comes to beating the deck, you know, I know all the ins and outs, how to protect myself for it from the deck, but when it comes to actually knowing the best plays and how to maximize and optimize what the deck can actually do, I mean, I'm still basically at a beginner level. Now, in the situation, or in the example that Dp-Ygo showed, he basically had a pretty optimal hand, which I didn't really know was an optimal hand outside of the one card being Super Rejuve, but he had an opening hand of 3 baby dragons, 2 big dragons, and Super Rejuvenation. Obviously, you know, you just have to imagine that you're going first and you don't know what you're playing against. And he demonstrated two completely different moves, and it's one move that I see often and then one that I had never seen before. And the first play was basically to simply use the baby's effect twice, make Draco sack with some tokens, and then during your end phase, you know, you could just Super Rejuve for 4 cards. And again, that's the pretty standard opening play that I see countless times. The problem with that is it's actually a huge misplay, and he goes into depth about why that was. You know, for starters, the play is extremely susceptible to max C if your opponent knows when to play that. The second is you've actually consolidated all your resources into Draco sack, but you have no idea what you're playing against. You know, Draco sack is an extremely powerful card, but if you're playing against things like Prophecy, Draco sack is not going to be the card that you want to throw out there game 1. In fact, just making a big XC right now is just not good if you have no idea what you're playing against. And then the third, and this might be the biggest sin that you actually committed this turn, and that's the fact that you really didn't maximize your Super Rejuvenation. I mean, yeah, you got 4 cards off of it, but with that specific hand, and you'll have to watch the video to see the specific hand, you actually could have drawn, you know, like 6 cards or something like that. Now, what to make a long story short, what ends up happening is he basically uses the 2 big dragons to essentially tutor the other dragons in the deck, and you know, he uses these cards to dump the other dragons that he doesn't have into his graveyard. And it's like, I never really see people do that. You know, you never see people use Tempest's effect to search another monster to then use a baby discarding that monster, and he ends up with a Redox in defense, and you know, he ends up drawing 6 cards. And when you really break down that play, it actually ends up being like, it ends up being really, really optimal, because not only does he draw the maximum amount of cards off Super Rejuvenation, but he gets a Redox in defense. Now, Redox has a 3000 defense ass. Like, you're pretty much damn near OTK proof if you have a Redox on field. And then Redox also combats against the counter plays that you know, people will basically bring out the woodwork for Super Rejuvenation. You know, something like summoning a Grand Mole and bouncing the Draco sack back. Well, if you do that against Redox, I don't really care, because you didn't really accomplish anything. You know, if you use Spellbook of Fate you're either going to bounce my Redox to my hand, or what, are you going to banish it and let me get another card? Like, you know, Redox is one of the most difficult cards in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! To like kind of deal with. Not just that, but he also has his graveyard completely toolboxed. You know, all 4 elemental dragons in the graveyard, which means that he has all his counterplay options just fully expanded there. The play is also completely resistant to Maxia's. The only special summoning he has to do is the Redox itself. So it's like, you know, if you Maxi him, you draw 1 card and you're not really doing anything. And option 2, the second play that he did, it also put him in the best position as far as countering like the dirt plays. You know, countering the worst case scenarios. Like, let's say you go with the Redox play and your opponent summons an Ophion or a Jogan on board. Like, those are obviously cards that just make you cringe, and those are cards that basically require you to have an immediate action because they're just going to lock you down. Well, if he drew 6 cards off Rejuvenation, and he had 6 cards from his opening hand, that's already 12 cards that he's gone through. He thinned his deck by 3 cards, so that's 15 cards. That's basically over a third of his deck. So the chances of him getting, you know, a Heavy Storm or a Dark Hole, some of the more powerful cards that can completely turn the tide of a duel, like, they're really good. You know, you also have to look at the fact that a lot of Dragon players right now are running 3 copies of the 7 sword draw card, specifically so that they can get to these power cards, so that they can get things like Ophion and Jogan off the board quicker. I guess the point that I'm trying to make in this video is, it really shows you the difference between an average duelist who happens to win with a deck because, you know, Dragon Rulers are inherently stronger than every deck of the format, and good players who actually know the ins and outs of a deck, who are basically playing it on a different level, even if you see the ends and it looks the same. I guess the best metaphor I could say is, you know, I kind of look at Dragon Rulers like the LeBron James of Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, you can put LeBron James literally on any team in the league, and next year they're a playoff team. Like, any team. I'm talking like the Cavs, you know, the Kings, the Bobcats, the Orlando Magic. Any team in the league would be a playoff team next year if you put LeBron James on that team. But if you surround LeBron James with really smart people and really smart minds, like Pat Riley and D Wade and, you know, Coach Spo, then the deck, or, you know, he's basically God tier. You know, like, he evolves that team to like God tier, and that's kind of what, you know, we're seeing with Elemental Dragons. And I just wanted to get people's opinions on that. Like, if you have time, I really suggest you guys check out the video. It was really entertaining and informative. I'll have it annotated in my video. Thank you guys for watching as always, and take care. Subscribing makes life happy.